My wife Desiree and I, she had a great idea that we would do Pilates together. The thing that I noticed that the class is called Beginner Reformer. The word reformer is to put into a better form or condition. And that term, beginner reformer, has become kind of like a spiritual metaphor for my life right now. This season in my life, I realized that, you know what? I don't want to get to that place where I kind of become that lukewarm follower of Jesus. So I made a decision, a conscious decision, that I want to look at everything with fresh eyes, with open ears and open heart. And so as I've been going through my time with the Lord, I've kind of just been acting as though I'm seeing things sometimes for the first time. And there's this great couple of verses, two different incidents that really spoke to me that I know I'd read many times before. But all of a sudden, I saw them in a new light, and it has everything to do with this being empowered, encouraged, strengthened in the Lord. When Saul is still king over Israel, David has become the heir apparent. He's already been anointed for this role of becoming the future king, but he's not the king yet. Matter of fact, Saul is very threatened by David. But David has become really good friends with Saul's son, Jonathan, and they have become buds. And Jonathan hears his dad talk about how he knows where David and his men are hiding, and he is out to pursue David, and he's going to deal with him once and for all. So Jonathan steals away, and he goes and finds David, and he brings them this news, which you would know if you would hear something like that. That would be so discouraging to know that, you know, the king of Israel has summoned all of his armies and he's out to get you, and you don't really stand much of a chance. But there's this interesting verse in 1 Samuel 23:16, and it says this: "And Saul's son Jonathan went to David at Horesh and helped him find strength in the Lord." There are going to be days when you're going to feel like there is nobody around who's on your side, when everything that possibly could go wrong has gone wrong, and the news gets worse. If you have done any type of ministry, you know those days happen. There are also likely to be days when you have the opportunity to be a Jonathan, to speak into somebody's life when they're at this low point, when everything seems to have gone wrong in their life, and to come alongside them and to encourage them to find strength in the Lord. That's such an empowering thing, to give this gift of encouragement. But it would never have been possible had Jonathan and David not had this close relationship. So I think it's very easy to be surrounded by people, but to not let anybody close enough into your life that they can be that Jonathan. And we know what it's like to come alongside and comfort somebody when they've had a bad day. You know, it's kind of a, you know, it's okay, hang in there. Maybe it's a hug, maybe it's a, you know, I'll go buy you a Starbucks. So, you know, we know how to comfort people, but to give someone strength in the Lord is more than just a pep talk. It's more than just a get out there and go face it, you can do it. It's more than just that. To help somebody find strength in the Lord is to be able to speak into their life in a critical way at a critical time that really helps them to realize, with God, I can face this. That day that Jonathan left David, David still was in the same predicament. Saul was still after him. He still had his armies chasing down, trying to find where he was. But David now looked at his situation entirely different. He had been strengthened in the Lord because this key friend, Jonathan, had spoken into his life. And I don't think that Jonathan had just said it's going to be okay, you're a great guy, we all know my dad's crazy, it's no surprise, but it's all going to work out. I think Jonathan knew the right words to say to David. Maybe they were words of encouragement, maybe they were also words of a key advice. Maybe it was being able to speak into David's life in a way that only a close friend could be able to do that. And every one of us will go through seasons when we need a Jonathan. So my question to you is, who is the person that you've allowed close enough into your life that they can speak into your life in a critical way when you need it most? And who are the people around you that you could be the Jonathan to as they go through a difficult time because you invested yourself in that kind of a relationship. So a few chapters later, Jonathan now has joined his father Saul, and they're off to battle with the army of Israel to go fight the Philistines. David and his men have been sent back home, and they go to their hometown, and when David arrives, he finds that the hometown of he and all his men has been burned to the ground, and their wives and their children have been taken away by the Amalekites and are gone. And as David faces this scene, what ends up happening is there's no Jonathan around now. David can't go and say, hey, go find me Jonathan. I know he's out in the battlefield somewhere with his dad. I need him here. I need somebody here. David doesn't have that opportunity. And all of the men are beginning to grumble amongst themselves. And it's become so bad that they're now looking at, their leader, and they're going like, who made this guy king? And they actually are plotting to get rid of David. And then David, hears all this grumbling, and it's all going around throughout the camp. And it says in 1 Samuel chapter 30, verse 6, David was greatly distressed because the men were talking of stoning him. Each one was bitter in spirit because of his sons and daughters. But David found strength in the Lord. There are going to be plenty of times when you won't have a Jonathan in your corner. And you can complain, and you can throw yourself a pity party, and you can invite everybody, including God, to come, and no one's going to be there. What are you going to do in that time when you don't have that person alongside of you? David had learned, I need people in my life. I need a Jonathan in my life. But when Jonathan's not available, I have to dig down deep inside my relationship with God and find my own strength in God. I can't blame my predicament, my distress, on any other person not being there. It's my responsibility to own up. It's me and God this time. And the same principles apply. Just as a close friend can speak to you in a way that nobody else can, God can speak to you in a way that nobody else can. And we find our strength in God first, but we all need each other. So the second and the last question is, are you finding your strength in God? And if not, it's up to you to go back to God and become reacquainted as though you were best friends again.